Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam, Pak Vasyl, Bu Ela, dan kawan-kawan sekalian. Salam sejahtera dan selamat malam. Mari kita bersyukur terlebih dahulu karena pada malam hari ini kita dapat berjumpa dalam diskusi bertajuk Perang Ukraina dan Rusia, Indonesia bisa apa? Bersama dua pemateri kita, yakni His Excellency Pak Vasyl Hamianin. Beliau adalah Duta Besar Ukraina untuk Indonesia. Pak Vasyl merupakan alumni dari National Academy of Science Ukraine dengan fokus sejarah dunia. Karir diplomatiknya dimulai di Tiongkok pada tahun 2002 sampai 2015, yang mana beliau pernah menjabat sebagai Minister Counselor. Pada 30 Juli 2021, Pak Vasyl ditunjuk menjadi Duta Besar luar biasa dan berkuasa penuh Ukraina untuk Indonesia. Dan pada tanggal 30 Oktober 2021 menyerahkan surat kepercayaan kepada Presiden Joko Widodo. Pemateri kedua kita, Bu Ela Zahidiyah Ela Tursina. Bu Ela sekarang sedang menempuh studi doktoral ilmu sosial dengan konsentrasi hubungan internasional di Universitas Airlangga. Bu Ela pernah menjadi dosen hubungan internasional di Universitas Darussalam Gontor dan sekarang menjadi pembina riset SMA 10 GKB Gresik. Nah, dalam diskusi ini kita akan membedah secara mendalam apa yang terjadi di panggung internasional, terutama dengan perang yang berkecamuk di Ukraina dan Rusia. Nah, for our speaker tonight, we have Mr. Vasyl Hamianin. Hello, Mr. Vasyl. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat malam. Thank you very much for saya mau mengucapkan terima kasih banyak atas kesempatan ini kepada saudara-saudara, kepada Pak Reza dan ibu-ibu dan bapak-bapak. Saya berbahasa Indonesia belum dengan lancar. Boleh mohon berbahasa Inggris?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I really hope that this discussion, it will for 2 hours, as far as I can understand. So I'm not going to deliver a big speech, right? Because I did it many times, and I would like invite everyone to my Facebook and to my Twitter to see what really happens in Ukraine. I don't quite understand who are the participants of this conference, but at least I know these are media people, maybe scholars, maybe students, maybe people who are not indifferent towards what is going on, and especially to the people who want to know the truth, because Indonesians are proud people of proud nation, and I think you deserve the truth. So first of all, what I would like to talk about is the truth. It is important to understand. Well, my background is like Pak Reza just told you. But it is important to understand that I was grown up in the Soviet Union, the country that was notoriously known for its propaganda and for its communist and colonialist background. And I did my PhD 20 years ago in world history, and it's, I don't know how it happened, but I was looking at the period that started 1911 and ended 1949, exactly the year where Indonesia's independence was recognized by the United Nations. So trust me, I understand the truth, and I know where I lived, and I know what's going on now in Ukraine and Russia. I can receive any questions, and I call upon you, do not trust lies that goes out of the mouth of Russian diplomats, Russian politicians, Russian military commanders, Russian president, of course. I call upon you to think, to analyze, to be wise, as wise as Indonesian nation is. That's one part of my speech. Second part is about what's now is going on in Ukraine. We are living in the 21st century, and unfortunately, it's a century of TikTok, but fortunately, it's also a century of other media. So people can not only see the small video for 30 seconds, you also can see the other media. You can read, you can understand what's going on. Now we have a war. It's not just a war which can be interpreted in many ways. We have the Neo-Colonialist War against Ukraine, because the purpose of Vladimir Putin is not the liberation of where you may imagine. His purpose, not NATO, because he's not afraid of NATO and he's not afraid of anything like related to the Western countries. His purpose is to re-establish the Soviet Union. And this neo-colonialist strategy of Vladimir Putin is something Ukrainian people would never accept, because we have been fighting for our freedom, for our independence, for our merdeka for 300 years, and exactly against the Russia, against the Russian Empire, against the Russian Soviet Empire, and now against the Putin's empire. What happens in Ukraine now drives me very sad, because the moment we are talking with you, it's now 5 hours behind. We have the fight for our lives, fight for our freedom, fight for our land, fight for our nation. And they say in this very time, people are dying of bombardments, of missile strikes, and also of the humanitarian catastrophe. Because in many cities in Ukraine, like Mariupol, like Kharkiv, like Chernihiv, where the 9 nationals of Indonesia still stay, still cannot leave, and we are fighting for this too. In Sumy, we are facing the humanitarian catastrophe. People, civilians, are cut off electricity, cut off water, cut off food supplies, medicines, and simple influenza, simple COVID will lead to death of any who picks it up. Simple wound or injury, which can be treated easily, will lead to death. And now many people already died, and many people still suffer, because the Russian invaders do not even give the opportunity for the Red Cross or for other humanitarian organization to provide, to deliver medication, to deliver water, to deliver food. This is war against nation. It's not war against the army. And it is crime against humanity. And anticipating the question about the demands of Russian dictator Putin towards Ukrainians, what do you want? I mean, please, listen to our conditions, and then we will stop fire. The demand is very simple: give up, surrender, stop resistance, and recognize the occupied territories which were occupied back in 2014. The territories will include Crimea, of course, which is the home of the the whole, I would say, main Muslim population of Ukraine. Crimea is the home for Crimean Tatars, who are the Muslims and who have been living there for 1,000 years and longer. The Islam came to this land 1,000 years ago. And I would answer the question like this. After the occupation, Ukrainian Muslims did not welcome the aggressor, did not welcome the occupant. They left their homes, they left the land, they left the masjid and madrasa, they fled to Ukraine. Because Ukraine is really a tolerant country which can and which does protect them from the aggressor. Now we don't make a deal, we don't trade by our land. We don't trade by our brothers and sisters. And the demands of Vladimir Putin to give up the land of our Crimean Tatars will not be satisfied. The third message in my first speech is very simple. Like Indonesians fought back in 1945 till 49. Like Indonesian people bravely opposed the aggressors, bravely opposed the colonialists. Now Ukrainian people, together with the army, are confronting the enemy, and they will not stop till the last aggressor leaves our land or till the last aggressor is killed on our land. This is not just my words. These are the words of our leaders, of our president, of our Mufti of Ukraine and Mufti of Crimea, of our Muslim brothers and sisters. This is the words of the mothers and sisters, the children of my land. City of Kharkiv, which is the second biggest city in Ukraine, situated just 38 kilometers from Russian border, and now surrounded by Russian troops. And after experiencing huge and massive bombardments, and after many civilians died, and after I would say the hundreds of thousands of people, I mean the half of the population, women and children are ready to leave, they will not go to Russia. They would rather go to Western Ukraine, which is 1,000 kilometers instead of 38, away from Kharkiv. They will not go to the land of aggressor. Because what happens now in Ukraine is the nation fights like a single warrior. The nation bersatu. We fight against the cruel and merciless enemy. And we pray. We pray for peace and freedom. We are ready to negotiate for anything except for our freedom and for our independence. I think that maybe this is what I wanted to say, because there are too many. Every day, I mentioned to Pakreza this already, and this is true. Every day, I start my day with listening to Surabaya speech of Bung Tomo. And if we replace just few words in this speech, we replace the names of Surabaya into Kiev or Kharkiv or Mariupol. We replace the names of like Pemuda dari Kalimantan, Pemuda Aceh into Pemuda Kiev, Pemuda Chernihiv. This speech will be the words that every Ukrainian in the territories under attack is telling to each other every day, every hour. And I spend my day looking at the videos, looking at the reports. What is going on in Ukraine? I cannot stop my tears running. because my family is there, my friends are there, everybody is there, and they are suffering. I want this war to stop. Everyone in Ukraine wants this war to stop. And I call upon you again, think about it. Nothing can justify the aggression. Nothing, no fears, no threats, no dreams of whoever in this world will not justify the killings of civilians in cold blood. I think I will stop here, and I would be honored to listen to your questions. If I don't know, Ibu Zahidiyah or Pak Reza would moderate, or how it goes on. I don't quite understand, because I will not have time to read the questions, especially that some questions are in Bahasa. I cannot read that fast.
Okay, yeah, I will help you with the question. I will be the moderator for tonight's discussion, sir. Okay, thank you very much for your commentary and for your explanation about what happened in Ukraine. Now, sekarang kita masuk kepada narasumber kita yang kedua, Bu Ela. Waktu dan tempat kami persilahkan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Excellency Mr. Vasyl Hamianin, Ambassador of Ukraine to Indonesia, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Today is discussion panel. We all together will discuss about conflict Russia and Ukraine. I hope that we get many valuable insight in this meeting. In this regard, I empathize and sympathize with the Ukraine who has experienced big problems. There are many victims, there are many tears, so I pray that conflict will end soon. Whatever the problems, I strongly believe that war is not a way to solve problems. In this forum, I will not explain overly academic way. I will explain three main points, and I describe this problem with English language and Bahasa, mixed language. Okay. First,
you can actually explain it in Bahasa. If not too fast, I can understand a little bit. Saya bisa mengerti sedikit-sedikit.
Yeah. Okay. First, why Russia attacked Ukraine? Kenapa Rusia menyerang Ukraina? Jadi ini diawali oleh kebijakan utama dari Presiden Zelensky. Zelensky membuat sebuah kebijakan, yakni Ukraina akan bergabung dengan NATO. Melihat hal seperti ini, Rusia sebagai negara saingnya dari Amerika Serikat, negara-negara Barat itu tidak sepakat. Rusia merasa negaranya ke NATO. Bagi Rusia, perbatasan itu sangat penting. Perbatasan itu adalah sebuah penyangga bagi Rusia. Karena itulah ketika Ukraina ingin masuk ke NATO, Rusia itu langsung marah, merasa terancam negaranya. Dan itulah yang membuat Rusia menyerang Ukraina. Ini hal seperti ini sebenarnya kalau dicari akar psikologisnya ini berkaitan dengan perang dingin. Ketika waktu NATO bersaing dengan Uni Soviet dengan Pakta Warsawanya, ini bersaing untuk perimbangan kekuatan di masa perang dingin. Jadi ketika di tahun 2021 Ukraina bergabung dengan NATO, ini membuat Rusia menjadi merasa terancam. Maka terjadilah sebuah penyerangan dari Rusia ke Ukraina. And then, what's the impact of economy on Indonesia? Robert Giblin, the most popular scholar at International Politics Economy Studies, described that Politics is much more influenced by economic conditions. And then economy is much more influenced by social and political conditions. So there has interrelationship between of them. Politics can influence economy. Economy influence politics. So there has interrelation between of them. Lantas apa dampaknya kepada Indonesia? Kalau saya analisa, hal seperti ini, peperangan antara Rusia dan Ukraina itu berpotensi memberikan dampak kepada Indonesia. Ukraina merupakan negara yang mengekspor gandum kepada Indonesia. Dan Indonesia ini memiliki cukup bergantung kepada gandum dari Ukraina. Di sisi lain, Rusia itu mengekspor migas, mengekspor biji besi ke Indonesia. Jadi ketika terjadi konflik antara Rusia dan Ukraina secara terus-menerus, ini akan membuat harga-harga komoditas itu menjadi melambung tinggi. Ketika harga komoditas melambung tinggi, ini akan berdampak kepada inflasi domestik di Indonesia. Ketika inflasi domestik Indonesia mengalami carut-marut, ketika ekonomi Indonesia mengalami inflasi, itu akan membuat masyarakat Indonesia yang berpenghasilan rendah akan merasakan dampak negatifnya. Itulah yang saya mengatakan tadi, saya mengutip Robert Kipling, bahwa ekonomi can influence politik, politik can influence ekonomi. Jadi memang ada keterkaitan, interrelation between of them. And then third, what should Indonesia do? In my own argument, first, Indonesia able to use diplomatic strategy. Diplomatic strategi seperti apa? Misalnya, Indonesia menyelesaikan perdamaian di Majelis Umum PBB, United Nations. Nah, karena Indonesia ini adalah menjadi seorang ketua G20, presiden G20, maka seyogyanya Indonesia ini harus memainkan peran penting, harus berinisiatif untuk membawa permasalahan ini ke Majelis Umum PBB. Di Majelis Umum PBB ini semua negara memiliki kedudukan sama, dan itu harusnya dimanfaatkan Indonesia untuk memainkan peran diplomasinya untuk menyuarakan perdamaian. Hasil konkretnya apa? Idealnya hasil konkretnya adalah dikeluarkannya resolusi antara kedua belah pihak, yaitu Ukraina dan Rusia, yang di mana antara kedua belah pihak itu harus berdamai, hentikan gencatan senjata. Itu diplomasi strateginya. And then second, Indonesia able to optimize the role of civil society organizations. For example, PP Muhammadiyah. Muhammadiyah will distribution aid Muhammadiyah. Jadi Muhammadiyah akan mendistribusikan bantuan luar negerinya ke korban-korban yang ada di Ukraina. Dan yang kedua, seharusnya Muhammadiyah mengoptimalkan universitas-universitas Muhammadiyah dari Sabang sampai Merauke untuk mengadakan sebuah acara yang di mana acara tersebut membahas konflik Rusia dan Ukraina. Biasanya ini jurusan hubungan internasional yang ada di kampus Ilmu, kampus Universitas Muhammadiyah, hendaknya beramai-ramai untuk membahas, mendiskusikan mengenai konflik Rusia dan Ukraina. Supaya apa? Supaya tidak terjadi yang namanya propaganda yang salah, propaganda yang merugikan banyak orang, supaya tidak terjadi disinformasi, supaya tidak terjadi peperangan di media sosial, peperangan antar netizen. Nah, itulah tugas dari kalangan akademis, kalangan universitas. Dan saya sangat berterima kasih kepada Pemuda Muhammadiyah Wiyung, ini telah membuat sebuah diskusi terbatas mengenai bagaimana sih Indonesia seharusnya dalam menyikapi konflik Rusia dan Ukraina. Dan ini sangat membantu kita semua supaya kita akan berpikir jernih menghadapi sebuah permasalahan seperti ini. Nah, ketika di webinar-webinar yang diselenggarakan oleh jurusan hubungan internasional di Universitas Muhammadiyah dari Sabang sampai Merauke, harapannya adalah di webinar itu juga mengkampanyekan, juga memberi sebuah cakrawala berpikir untuk gimana sih sebuah operation security yang baik, gimana sih sebuah perdamaian internasional itu, gimana sih cara menciptakan perdamaian internasional itu. Jadi inilah tugas dari akademisi. Kalau meminjam apa namanya Antonio Gramsci, seorang intelektual itu harus turun dari menara Gabi. Seorang intelektual itu harus memberikan pencerahan kepada masyarakat. Seorang intelektual itu harus memberikan solusi dari problematika di masyarakat. Nah, inilah tugas dari seorang intelektual akademisi hubungan internasional untuk memerankan peranannya, untuk memerankan keilmuannya. And then, second, PBNU. Dari kantor PBNU ini, saya mendapatkan kabar berita PBNU ini berusaha untuk mendekati tokoh-tokoh agama di Rusia. Jadi di sini ada apa ya? Dari PBNU dia memainkan peranannya sebagai seorang agamawan untuk mendekati tokoh-tokoh agama supaya tokoh-tokoh agama di sana itu memberikan masukan-masukan bahwa idealnya itu perdamaian internasional itu wajib ditegakkan. And then my colleagues, Excellency, my closing statement, together we can play a more impactful contribution toward peace. I hope Indonesia always consistent to contribute full support to international peace. And then I thank you very much.
If I may respond.
Yeah. You may, sir.
I would like to make a quick response to this speech. I thank you very much for your position, and I thank you for expressing the position supporting peace and security in Ukraine. However, I would like to make some remarks on that. First of all, I ask everyone, please do not use the word conflict di antara Rusia dan Ukraina, because it is not a conflict, it's the full-scale aggression. Conflict, if you have the border and you have the two armies or two troops of two countries like exchanging shoots and exchanging fights, this might call the conflict. This is the full-scale aggression, and it happens on the territory of one country. It's my country. It's aggression. It's not a conflict. This is very important to understand. Second thing is that the reasons for this aggression, I repeat, nothing can justify the aggression. Nothing. No worries of Putin towards NATO, no so-called threats. Putin is not afraid of NATO, I repeat this, because Ukraine is not a member of NATO. And even Ukraine has not been given the perspective of NATO membership. We even not given the clear prospects of this. We are not promised to be member of NATO like in 50 years, 100 years, 30 years, no prospect. We just didn't receive the promise at all. So whatever whoever may talk about the missiles on the on the borders of Russia, they have the NATO countries in the very near vicinity of Russia. It's Lithuania, it's Poland, it's Latvia, it's Estonia. It's very close to Russia. And we're not talking about this. This is not the, if you analyze it, it's not the correct position. Second thing, you mentioned the political and economical influences, right? Yes, you're absolutely true. The Ukraine is an exporter of wheat to Indonesia. And Indonesia is the biggest exporter of palm oil to Ukraine. So if everything goes on, if the the Neo-Colonialist War goes on, this will influence the exports of palm oil worth hundreds of billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, and the exports of wheat to Indonesia worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And it will influence the exports of Ukraine worth billions and billions of dollars to the rest of the world, which is the threat for the food security globally. And also the iron and steel, which we export to Indonesia. But this is not the most important thing in this place. We are paying the price. Everybody's paying the price. The countries that imposed sanctions on Russia are paying big price. But remember the Second World War. We know what it means. In this time, Indonesia fought for its independence from the colonial rule, but we were fighting against Nazis. It was Second World War. And the countries who did not want to pay the price to prevent the war, they paid a much bigger price after this, much bigger price. And it was global. Maybe, well, economic consequences of this war. I repeat, this is not a war against Ukraine only, it's a war against peace and stability in the world. Because the country who started this war is the, remember this, he is the permanent member of the Security Council of the United Nations with a veto right. This is very important to understand. It's not just a country attacking just another country. It's the permanent member of the Security Council of the United Nations. Now we pass to the third question, negotiations and diplomacy. Ukraine never ever rejected the diplomacy and the negotiations. And after all, think about this, we are under attack. We did not attack anyone. We did not insult anyone. And the attack is happening in my country. So maybe it is important for the world nations to address Putin and ask him to negotiate to stop this, not addressing the Vladimir Zelensky or whoever else. It is about Putin, not Zelensky. And it is important again to underline that United Nations is the weak and useless and toothless organization at present. I repeat, because of the Security Council, whose member is attacking Ukraine now, and who attacked Ukraine 8 years ago, and who attacked Georgia in 2008. It was the same member of the Security Council. Now, during last 8 years, Ukraine applied 11 times to the Security Council for the peacekeeping force in Donbass. And 11 times it was rejected by Russian Federation. So we can talk about the resolutions by the United Nations. We talk about the long-term political settlement of this war. But what happens in reality, if we rely 100% of this on the United Nations, this war will never end, or in some time, there will be no Ukraine to talk about. Because again, I come back, Security Council and the permanent member of the Security Council. Think about it very, very carefully before you talk about negotiations. What I really think might happen is the nations of the world, the leaders of the world, where Indonesia plays a great role now. We see the Indonesia's role in G20. Indonesia is becoming a global power. And I think that what might happen now, what must happen now, is the nations which are not the members of the permanent members of the Security Council, but who have the huge influence of world politics, world economy, like Indonesia, like maybe India, like maybe Brazil, like maybe Mexico, like maybe Canada, should immediately demand Russia to sit down, stop fighting, and talk. And it was yesterday that I came to this thought, just yesterday. If we do this, if the leaders of the nations, leaders of the region, of the regions of the world, again, I repeat, Indonesia, China, Turkey, South Africa, maybe, Egypt, maybe, I don't know who, if the leaders of the world demand Putin to stop killing civilians immediately, it's not like long-term negotiations we need, immediately, sit down and talk, this may be the start for the reform of the United Nations, which is timely. And these countries who will do this, if they do, might be the members of the new Security Council of the United Nations. It's the thought that came to my head yesterday because I've been thinking it over and over and over and over again. Now, the fourth, I didn't quite understand from what you said. I didn't understand all what you said about Muhammadiyah and everything, but again, I met the leaders of Muhammadiyah, I met the leaders of Nahdlatul Ulama, I met the leaders of the Majelis Ulama Indonesia. I would say that we have the 2 million of Muslims in Ukraine, and they are suffering, and they are fighting to defend their land, and they are praying. I'm on the phone every day with two Mufti of Crimea and Mufti of Ukraine, my good friends, and they send me videos of what's going on. They send me the prayers, and when I told them that I met leaders of Muslim communities of Indonesia, they told me that we can feel the prayers. I know the Muslim community of Indonesia here with us together praying, and I don't know what did you say about this in particular, but I do hope that the leaders of the biggest Muslim communities in the world will keep on praying for us. We'll keep on praying for our Muslim brothers and sisters who are suffering now in this very moment in Ukraine. And the Muslim world would not ignore this too, should not ignore this. If we're talking about maybe, I don't know if you mentioned this, but some people told me that, Muslim communities in Ukraine, in Russia, you must understand one thing. Russia, unlike Ukraine, can you please shut down the microphone? Yeah. Unlike Ukraine, Russia was we called it always the prison of nations. All nations in Russia, in colonialist Russia, were oppressed all the time for hundreds of years. And the crimes Russia committed against the Muslims is outrageous. What they did in the Chechen War, what they did in Syria, what they did in many other places against Azerbaijan, against Muslim population in Caucasus, not only Chechnya, is outrageous. And they start sending Muslim people to Ukraine to kill people. Can you imagine this? This is absolute unacceptable. Something is unacceptable by humanity, by Quran, by any human being, and they do it. So that's what I mean. Maybe I'm wrong in responding the last question on Muhammadiyah, but that's what I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Terima kasih Pak Vasyl. Dari Bu Ela ada tanggapan?
Tidak ada. Kita buka cermin pertanyaan dengan audiens.
Oke. Ya. So, Mr. Vasyl, there is this question, question from Mr. or Mrs. Nubul, maybe Mrs. Nubul. How is the real condition in Ukraine now, and what can Indonesians do or help for the Ukrainians? What help is most needed for the Ukrainians? That's it.
Now, it is a simple question. How the condition of Ukraine now? We have few cities surrounded by the aggressor. We have humanitarian catastrophe. As I mentioned, we have few cities, big cities with big population, cut off electricity, water, food supplies, medicines. And we have the condition when the aggressor did not permit to open humanitarian corridors to supply these things. This what happening in Ukraine. After the shelling and bombing, after killing the women and children, after bombing the maternity house and the hospital yesterday, what can I say? What's happening in Ukraine? Everybody is like waiting any moment for a missile to come into his house. So that's what's happening. It's a war, and it's a cruel and unhuman attack on the peaceful people who never wanted to have a war in the country. How can Indonesia help? Well, it's simple. 3 things. 1, prayers. Like my friend Mufti of Crimea and Mufti of Ukraine said, we are praying. We are fighting too with weapons, but we are also praying. This is our force. This is our something that will help, because Allah Almighty will never leave us alone. Second is humanitarian aid. Anything possible. But we really, I appeal to all of you. If you know the humanitarian like NGOs or charity foundations, please tell us, because we cannot identify one. We cannot, according to Indonesian law, we cannot even collect the donations from Indonesian people on our account, because it's like against the law. And it makes us very, very difficult to deliver the aid to Ukraine. So if you know some NGO or humanitarian organization, they can deliver this, can accumulate the donations, please tell me. Third is the very important one, to not believe the lies and to spread the truth among the Indonesian people. You deserve the truth. You must know how people suffer. Do not just bluntly believe what Russian propaganda says. Russian propaganda is well-known colonialist, communist propaganda, being formed and shaped through decades. Fourth is, I really want Indonesia to condemn the enemy, to condemn the aggressor, to condemn the murderers, to condemn them, and name it. Name Russia as aggressor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Vasyl. So, another question now from Ananda. For Ukraine, has the rejection for immediate membership in NATO and European Union discouraged Ukraine to pursue membership in the future? That's the first question. And the second is, for Indonesia, I think there has been a UN resolution to condemn Russian aggression and call Russia to unconditionally withdraw from Ukrainian territory, but Russia has not withdrawn. What can be done further? Thank you.
Again, I will start from the second question. I think I answered it already. I believe and I know that United Nations is not the organization that can help the situation to be resolved soon, because I repeat it the time and time again. the permanent member of Security Council with a veto right is the aggressor. What would you expect of the United Nations? What would you expect? Okay, we can condemn it. Then what? What we can do next? Please tell me, someone, what we can do next? Nothing. It is not the organization that can resolve any questions now. It's my firm position, and I would not, I mean, if you give me the answer, I will be happy, but there is no answer. Second is what about NATO and the European Union? Well, Ukraine applied for the membership of NATO and European Union, but has not been given any answer, any perspective. So what do we discuss? Like yes, we want to be the part of NATO, part of the European Union. Yes. So what? If we are not given membership, so what? Our task now is to defend our motherland, to survive, right? It's not about NATO. What is going on in Ukraine? Not about NATO. It's about humanity. It's about the spirit of the people ready to fight and ready to die. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasyl. We go on to another question. Assalamualaikum, Mr. Vasyl. Kova said that with a lot of economical, political, and security factor, what will be done by Volodymyr Zelensky as the president of Ukraine about the invasion of Russia? And he will keep asking for the help from NATO or US about this war. That's the question.
Vladimir Zelensky is my president, and I would say that many people didn't even expect he will be like this. He will be the true leader of a nation. Oh, well, it sounds pathetic, but yes, he is. He is the hero of my country. He's the hero of the world. I think he's a hero that is really Pahlawan, that the world didn't see since the Second World War, since the 50s, maybe since the times of General Sudirman. He is the real leader and the real Pahlawan. Okay. So what would he do? I mean, the defense of my land is the matter of my country. If NATO or any country would not send troops to Ukraine, this will be absolutely 100% the responsibility of my country. But now Russia doesn't fight the army. It's not like opposing the army. Confronting Russian aggression is the nation of Ukraine. That's why if nobody comes, we will fight. Fight back till the end, till like Bung Tomo said, our white flag will be Merah Putih, with our blood. We'll never surrender and we'll never stop till the end till the last invader leaves my country or dies in my country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasyl. Mungkin Bu Ela ada tambahan?
Lebih baik kita diskusi bersama-sama. Kalau saya lihat ini ada banyak sekali pertanyaan-pertanyaan terkait dengan pertanyaan dasar mengenai Ukraina. Kalau saya lihat dari pertanyaan kawan-kawan di sini, sepertinya kawan-kawan di sini masih kurang begitu memahami dasar-dasar dari peperangan antara Rusia dan Ukraina. Jadi barangkali kita buka sesi diskusi aja. Saya lihat pertanyaannya ya masih ini.
Ya.
Didn't get it. What is addressed to me? No. No.
Mungkin untuk kalau masuk sesi diskusi, diselesaikan untuk satu pertanyaan ini ya. Ini ada yang dari Bu Novi ini belum terjawab. Ya, memang beberapa pertanyaan mungkin masih sangat awam. Mungkin kawan-kawan kalau mau bertanya apa yang terjadi di Ukraina dan lain-lainnya, silakan lihat update di berita. Itu semua ada, sudah lengkap di sana. Tapi kita bisa lihat bagaimana bias antara berita, karena saya juga wartawan di Kemalan ya, saya cek di berita internasional, bias berita antara yang ada di Russia Today dengan dibandingkan kantor berita lainnya itu kelihatan sekali. Jadi mungkin untuk pertanyaan yang sangat umum, nah ini Bu Novi ini mungkin berkaitan dengan Indonesia ya. How is the condition of WNI in Ukraine now?
Sorry, the condition of what?
Of Indonesian people in Ukraine.
All right. So we evacuated many Indonesian people by now, and the majority of Indonesian citizens arrived in Jakarta already, and they are fine and good. A few days ago, 2 last women from Kharkiv were evacuated to Lviv and arrived safely to Lviv, and I think now they are on the way to Nusantara, and the last Indonesian people, I think it's nine citizens, still remain in a city of Chernihiv, and I am on the permanent contact with the vice governor of the region and with this group of people. I have the phone numbers, and I'm in the contact with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine and of Indonesia. I'm in the contact with volunteers and everybody. But now the situation that I was reported is that it is safer in Chernihiv, and it is not safe to leave Chernihiv because the Russians are shooting at any car, at any vehicle leaving the city. So they don't approve the humanitarian corridor for the civilians. So when they leave Chernihiv, it may be just destroyed by tanks or by something. So it is not safe now to leave the city. We are doing all we can to resolve this situation. I know this, and I'm aware of every single life, every single soul of Indonesian citizens there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasyl.
Just to add, you know that while evacuating the foreign citizen in Ukraine during these days, many Ukrainians not only risked their lives, but also died while evacuating them, because they are running, cars, and then some, including my friends, they evacuating people, then coming back for the others, and they were killed on the road. So yes, this happens.
So terrible out there. So now, monggo, Mas Raditya Bayu.
Oke, terima kasih. Saya mau address pertanyaannya ke Pak Vasyl. Thank you, Mr. Vasyl. I have to add that I've been following the developments in Ukraine since 2014, since the invasion of Crimea, and I really feel for the Ukrainian people in this Russian aggression context. I want to ask 2 questions regarding the Russian aggression. First of all, you've said that NATO and United Nations and the organization is futile in facing this Russian aggression, and that we know President Putin, or the dictator, has not been reachable even from inside the Russian government as well. He's been hiding and then isolating himself for the past few weeks. And regarding the Indonesian help, what you said about the United Nations talks and condemnations and whatsoever, we do have to see the context in the battlefield or in Ukraine right now, the fact that Mariupol and Kharkiv humanitarian corridor was attacked by Russia is a stark evidence that Russia is not adhering to any talks, even from the NATO or the United Nations or any organizations in the world. Do you still believe that we Indonesians or any other countries that are impartial or not included in the West will still succeed in pursuing talk or any other diplomatic measures against the Russian Federation? And the second question would be, in Indonesia, it has been apparent that there are lots of misinformation and disinformation regarding the invasion. We see lots of Indonesians actually supporting Russia in this context because they see the simplification of the war by the fact that Ukraine is trying to join NATO, and that oversimplifies the war, which in fact is not that simple. How do you my second question would be, how does the Ukrainian embassy in Indonesia help this situation, the disinformation, and what Ukrainian embassy in Indonesia is trying to do regarding this issue? Thank you, Mr. Vasyl. Slava Ukraini. You're muted, I think.
You are still muted, sir.
I say, Merdeka atau mati, glory to the heroes. And my answer will be very simple as for the negotiations. I repeat, the traditional negotiations, traditional diplomacy would not work here because every day is the deaths of many people. Every day is the suffering of tens and hundreds of thousands of people. Every day is attacks, bombings, shellings. So long-run negotiations would not work. It's useless. It's pointless because when we talk, the Ukraine's independence, freedom, and lives of the citizens are under threat. So only way to put it, as I see it, it's not like a position of my government or something. As I see it, like a diplomat, like a citizen, is really to call upon the Putin by the leaders of the nations worldwide to sit down and talk, or maybe just online or whatever it is, but call upon Russia to, they have connections, you know, the leaders of the nations, the leaders of the big countries have connection to Putin. So if they unanimously stand up and say, guy, just stop fighting, let's talk, he will do, because the voices of Indonesia, the voices of China, India cannot be ignored by Putin. No, these are the great nations and these are the leaders, and he will not just simply ignore them, right? Second is what we are doing. We are doing a lot. We have a very small team now, and we like trying to disseminate the truth, the seeds of truth in hearts of Indonesians. We have a team and also of Ukrainians living in Indonesia, and they are helping us a lot. And we are building up the narratives which will reflect the true situation in Ukraine, which will reflect the true conditions of Ukrainian people there. And I want to knock the door of every heart of Indonesian, of every heart of Muslim, of every heart of Indonesian Christian, to understand that it is important to know the truth. It is important to think, to analyze, to find out the truth, not just believe the disinformation. And it is, well, we launched the new project yesterday, and we built up a team who will help us to deliver this information widely to Indonesian people. I hope that this will work, and I hope that the blatant lies that comes out of the mouths of criminals, I would call them criminals, the diplomats of Russian Federation and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation, will be stopped. Please also, just a small remark, please try to follow my Twitter. There are many things in Indonesian, there are many information in Bahasa, in English. My Facebook, my Twitter, the Twitter of the embassy, the Facebook of the embassy, there are a lot of information in Bahasa. Please follow it. May I, hold on, I have to stop for, oh, not yet, it's okay. No, because I'm waiting for a visitor. When he comes, I will stop for 5 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm ready to answer, sorry.
Okay. So there are another one who raised his hand. Silakan, Mas Al-Muharram.
Okay, thank you for your time, sir. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Malik Muhammad Ramansyah. I'm from Muhammadiyah University of Sidoarjo. With any respect, sir, I want you to know that we stay with humanity and against any invasion in this world. And I'm sorry about your friend.
Maaf, perkenalkan nama saya Al-Muharram Anwar Nahdi dari masyarakat umum. Pertanyaannya, Putin itu memiliki kesamaan dengan Stalin, yaitu bagaimana oposisi di Rusia itu ditangkap oleh aparat, padahal oposisi Rusia sudah memperingatkan Putin, tetapi ada yang dibunuh seperti Boris Nemtsov yang mengkritik aneksasi Crimea di Ukraina oleh rezim Putin. Persis seperti Stalin yang membunuh Trotsky dan genosida massal di Ukraina karena masyarakat itu tidak mau mengikuti program pemerintah Uni Soviet kala itu. Karena itu tidak patuh, rezim Stalin menjatuhkan hukuman berupa perampasan hasil pertanian, maka menimbulkan kelaparan hebat atau Holodomor akibat ulah perintah rezim Stalin. Maaf, aku punya lambang souvenir dari warga negara Ukraina.
I think I need translation. Merdeka atau mati. I think I need translation to this because I didn't get the message.
Ya,
Simply.
Mas Al-Muharram, bisa diulangi langsung to the point, pertanyaannya apa?
Pertanyaan.
Atau
Kalau
pernyataan?
bagaimana rezim Putin itu seperti rezim Stalin?
Yes, I agree with this.
Karena Stalin itu membunuh oposisi seperti Trotsky yang dianggap sebagai pesaingnya.
Oh, sih. Memberikan pernyataan ya Mas Al-Muharram ya?
Karena aku bacanya dari berita, dari sejarahnya Uni Soviet itu.
Oh yeah. So Mr. Al-Muharram here compare that what Stalin did to Trotsky was like how Putin did nowadays. Maybe the most well-known was to Navalny, if I'm not forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
I think he's asking, is Putin like Stalin? Ya benar ya Mas Al-Muharram?
Right.
Iya.
I can answer this question. I can answer this question. It's it's an easy question, and it's a complicated question, because like being a historian, I would answer you like this. It is not precisely correct to compare Trotsky and Navalny, because Trotsky was not better than Stalin and not better than Lenin and not better than these guys. These guys were true communists. These guys were calling upon the world revolution, world colonialism, just make the world the big Soviet Union. So no, Navalny is different from Trotsky, but the methods of Putin, his sentiments are very close to not only to Stalin's, but also to Hitler's. And if you follow the war, every day of it, since 2014, these are the methods of Hitler. And this could have been the methods of Stalin, because when Stalin attacked the Finland, you remember 1939, and small Finland defeated big Soviet Union, however, losing its territories. The same story happened to Ukraine in 2014, same story happened to Moldova, 1991, same story happened to Georgia in 2008. They were like not defeated, but they lost their lands. Putin is the true believer of the communist neo-colonial system. He is true adept, he is true son, I would say, of the Soviet Union. And he wants this Soviet Union back. He wants this Russian Empire back. And as Zbigniew Brzezinski, the analytics and the politician, wrote in his book, what is a great chessboard, back in 70s, I think, in 80s, long time ago. He wrote that it will be the battle for Ukraine, and Russia will fight for Ukraine, because without Ukraine, there will be no Soviet Union, there will be no Russian Empire. For Putin, the biggest geopolitical catastrophe was the collapse of the Soviet Union. Not the war, not the Second World War, not the First World War, but the collapse of the Soviet Union. So this was his tragedy, personal tragedy. And that's why he's not afraid of NATO. Don't believe these stories. NATO is defensive organization, and it never ever threatened Putin. If NATO wanted to defeat Putin, it will be easy, because Ukraine is defeating Putin now. And Ukraine is small and badly equipped, and it's not like NATO army, right? But Putin has been wanting Ukraine for a long time. And if you read his articles, if you hear his speeches, he calls Ukraine no nation, the nation that non-existent, the nation that has no right to exist. He calls Ukraine anti-Russia. I mean, who like healthy, mentally healthy person would call the independent state anti-Russia? So this is the true thing. Putin has defeated his some of his rivals. He eliminated democracy in Russia. There is no democracy in Russia. There is no media in Russia now. There is no right. I mean, recent laws, according to the recent laws in Russia, you cannot speak out no war. Because if you say no war, you'll be arrested. I mean, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, everything is banned in Russia. Facebook, of course, banned by Russian government, because these are the sources of the truth. So you make your assumptions.
Oke, thank you, sir. So, sekarang monggo Mas atau Pak Malik Herman.
Okay, thank you. I think there is some miscommunication between us. Okay, thank you, Mr. Vasyl. My name is M.Hub.Int. First, I want to tell you that I feel sorry about your friend. Second, I want you to know that we stay with humanity. We are Indonesia, stay with humanity and against any invasion in this world. As you said, that we need to demand Putin to stop. Is that correct, Mr.?
We need what?
You said that we need to demand Putin to stop. Is that
Yes.
correct? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we know that Mr. Putin has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world, and we know it. And I think Mr. Putin will threaten everybody in this world with it, and any West country are concerned about it too, sir. And I think Indonesia is between West and East. My question is, how we can stand about Mr. Putin nuclear threat? Thank you, sir.
It is a simple question for me, actually, because if you think it straightly, we do not trade by countries in change of having or not having the nuclear threat from someone in the world, right? If Putin says, well, now I want Ukraine, tomorrow I want Poland, the next day I would like to have Indonesia, please, because if they not be a part of Russian Empire, I would use nuclear weapons. I mean, you can go endless like this. And it's not the point of trade by the nation, right? Second thing I would like to mention is that I want you to understand what I understand very clearly. The elites of Russian Federation, they don't care about Ukraine. They don't care about Russia. They don't care about world peace and security. They don't care about nothing. They care about the money and the well-being and security of their children, of their grandchildren. They want them to be well off in Europe, in Monte Carlo casinos, in Las Vegas, in London, everywhere. And those people understand that the mad dictator would perhaps try to threaten the world with nuke. But those people are not mad. They are wise. I would say they are bad, but they are wise, right? They understand that if anything like this starts, their children, their grandchildren would not have a future. That's why I'm absolutely convinced that those people would not let him to press the red button, and the red button is not pressed like easy, like this. No, it will require a lot of people involved, a lot of passwords and everything. So this is just a threat. And Russia is not under threat. You know, when there is a nuclear attack on Russia, whatever attack on Russia, that might cause people to think that, well, yes, but now Russia is not under attack, even not under threat. Ukraine is under attack. Ukraine is under threat. So why would Russians use nuclear weapons? I mean, Putin is mad, okay, but not everybody is mad. And the third one is, maybe this is not a good reason for you. The good reason is the following. I was grown up in the city of Dnipro in Ukraine, and this is the city where all the nuclear weapons of the Soviet Union were made, were produced. All the missiles, all the big ones and small ones were produced. So now and then they moved all around the territory. So all those things were produced back in 60s and in 70s. So these missiles are like 50 to 60 years old now. Now these, can you imagine, right? Very specific weapons, very dangerous weapons, 60, 50 years old. What it needs maintenance. Every year, Ukrainian specialist experts used to go to Russia to provide the maintenance for those missiles every year before the 2014. Now, after 2014, no one in Russia can do this, and no Ukrainian specialists, engineers, and the experts, no one went to Russia after this. Now you imagine the nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles, 60 years old, or with 8 years of no maintenance. Do you believe really that they will dare to start them, to launch them? They will explode in the wells, and it will be the nuclear winter for the half of Russia in this time. So no one would dare to launch them, because, I mean, I repeat, every year, and now it's 8 years without maintenance. The weapons, 50 to 60 years old. Do you believe that anyone, like whoever it is, would launch the missiles like this? If we look at Russian tanks and Russian airplanes and Russian weapons they use in the war against Ukraine, I would say that the percentage of failures, at least it's like 35. So they launch the missiles, 1/3 of missiles don't explode, just stick into the ground. You have tanks, right? The 1/3 of tanks doesn't move. If they move, they stop the engine in the middle just for no reasons. This is what happens now in Ukraine. Russian army is a fake. The biggest army, the strongest, second strongest army in the world is a fake. It was believed by even by Ukrainians until the 2 weeks ago. Now we know what it is. It is I would say, scrap metal. So don't believe in Russian army. Don't believe in Russian nuke. It's like, it exists, yes, there are many, but many doesn't mean good, and it doesn't mean it works. Nobody knows what conditions are those nuclear weapons in. So I don't see the point here to be afraid of something like a fairy tale somewhere else. And the real threat we have now is the nuclear power stations under control of the invaders in Ukraine. The Chernobyl station and the one in Energodar, which are under control. The second one is the biggest nuclear power station in Europe, and they are hitting it with tanks, with cannons. This is the real threat. It's not like something that they have somewhere in wells. This is the real threat for the world and for the Europe. And if we don't stop this, this can be the ecological catastrophe for the world. And it's happening now, just right now, right? It's not something in like unforeseeable future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there are another question, from Budi Kristanto. He quoted John Mearsheimer from US, an academic from US, about turning Ukraine into pro-American liberal democracy. So his question, Budi Kristanto's question was, how the Ukrainian feel about democracy?
Good question. It's a very good question. Unlike Russia, Ukraine, through ages, through centuries, was a democracy. And Ukraine never was under the rule of a dictator, or willingly, I mean, or under the king, or under the whatever emperor. In the history of Ukraine, there were no kings or emperors. It has always been the democracy, a bit strange democracy, right? Because there was not like, but it was a democracy. And the history of Ukraine was the history of fighting against the colonialism, against the Russian Empire, And we do not have the grades of democracy like Western democracy, Eastern democracy, like new type democracy, American democracy. I don't know what it means. I know the democracy in Greek means the rule of the people, the rule of the nation. That's what it means directly. And the confirmation of our attitude towards democracy is our president. The one who was elected the one who didn't have any background as a politician, the one who didn't have any experience in politics. He just, like Satrio Piningit, came out from nowhere, like an actor. No background, no relations, no connections, nothing. And then he became a president because people trusted him. As simple as this. And yes, we believe in democracy. Like, I'm absolutely sure Indonesian people believe in democracy. Simple. Did I answer your question?
Mungkin Pak Budi mau menyampaikan tanggapan. Ini mungkin maybe there are another questions
Yeah.
from Ikhwan Nuran. He said that how do Ukrainian people mostly perceive their government in terms of leading the countries towards better future?
How do we perceive the government in terms of leading the country to the better future? It's a strange question, but I try to answer. Well, my friend is a historian, and he told me the sort of a joke. He said that the favorite game of Ukrainian people is to criticize the government. That's something we used to do for centuries. Whenever we have a government, whenever we have a leader, we always criticize him. He's not good, he's doing wrong, he's doing something. But when we face the danger to our independence, we always unite and we like support the leader, we support the good government, and we fight against it, against the enemy. So, I mean, the process towards the good future, towards the bright future, and towards the, like prosperity is, you being Indonesians, you might understand. You can see what happens in Indonesia. You're moving in the right direction, but not everything is good. Like not some corruption here, some processes are slow there. We have exactly the same situation. I will assure you, every country has absolutely the same condition. Every democratic country has absolutely the same things. Like a bit of corruption, like a bit of misleading, like a bit of mistakes, like a bit of something, this and that. And every country has the people who are not satisfied with the government, and also has people who are very much satisfied with the government. This is democracy. I think we were moving in the right direction during last years, during the last 2 years at least, the last 3 years after the election of Vladimir Zelensky. I think we were moving in very much right direction towards the democracy, towards the European values, not European values, I would say the global values of humanity, of democracy, of the rule of law, of towards the prosperity of the people, towards the development, and towards the stability. I think these are the right values, and these are the things that your president, whose admirer I am, is leading you to. I mean, you might not be satisfied, but this is something he is really trying to do. I have been following Indonesian politics for some time, and I think I have a right to say so, my opinion, right? So my president is not, my friend used to say sometimes when someone told him, well, I don't like you, so I'm not a dollar. You can dislike me, You like dollar, okay, everybody likes dollars, but I'm not a dollar. You can criticize me, you can dislike me. It's okay. Democracy is something that means the variety of opinions. If everybody's agreed with the leader, it is the North Korea or Russia. So democracy is like this, and it is very important for people to think, not to listen and not to believe the everything you read in the internet. It concerns today's propaganda against Ukraine, and it relates to the democracies, because there are forces always wanting to undermine the democracy in favor of something else. I don't know what. Just listen to your leader, trust him. If you don't trust him, re-elect him. It's okay. It's democracy. But think, always think. We are not slaves. We are people of the free countries. It's very important. In democracy, which used to be in Greece, there were slaves and the people, the nation, right? The citizens and slaves. Slaves didn't have rights. Citizens had rights. You are the citizens. You are free people. Think and do something for your country, like we do now. Did it work?
I see. Okay. I think people here are very curious how to, give a donation or help to the Ukrainian people. Where do we put the thing that we want to donate?
It's it's pain for me now, but right. Okay, we are obedient people. We are lawful people. We don't break the Indonesian laws. So, as we told, we cannot collect the donations on our account in the bank because it's something illegal. All right. So now there are two ways. You approach me through the email or something. I'll give you the ways. I give you the contacts of the people who are reliable. You can check it and we'll report on it. Every rupiah will be reported to you back. Or the other way is, please help me to identify the charitable foundation of Indonesia or the NGO, anything that can collect the donations and send them to Ukraine. I'll be very much grateful. I'm sure there are, but I don't know. And nobody can help me now. I mean, I've been trying for 2 weeks now, and I didn't receive a single response on that.
Okay. Well, that's right. Monggo, Malik Herman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reza. Thank you, Mr. Vasyl, for the answer. It's really good about the nukes. But there is still a big question for me because you said that the nukes in Russia is not really strong or weak, but why until now the West countries not react about the full-scale invasion to Ukraine? Thank you. I mean, react in full-scale army or something like that.
You see, Western countries, it is not that they do not react. It is that these countries are not like Russia. They react slowly because they don't want to make mistake. If I tell you that 8 years ago, when Russia attacked Ukraine and occupied Crimea and occupied part of Donbass, why the Western countries did not impose big sanctions on Russia? Because I think they were like analyzing, trying to understand, trying to identify and everything. It's not because they are afraid of anything. Plus, there are factors, of course, of corruption, because Russia at that time had a lot of money, and it just corrupted a lot of people in Europe, a lot of leaders who became then the advisors to the Gazprom, the members of the observing board of something, like members of the board of big companies in Russia. That's all that it's clear, it's open, and everybody knows this. But why they didn't help? Well, I think this is the matter again of the democracy. I'm sorry to say this, but there is no like a single leader like a king who can say, well, we move the weapons, let's close the sky for Ukraine. It does not work like this, because there are parliaments, and in the parliaments there are people who don't agree with this. There are people in the parliaments who think that there are like nuclear danger, nuclear threat. They think that it's not fair to press like this. It's like has to be negotiated, blah 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 blah. So it's democracies that does not allow do not allow the countries to use military troops or the aviation or anti-air forces to cover Ukrainian skies, for example. The true reasons, I don't know. I mean, it's our war. Everybody understands this is a war against the world, and we are doing what we used to do, what we did already nearly 700 years ago, when we stopped Mongolian army in the border of Europe. So when they moved to Kiev in 1240 and destroyed the Kiev, the biggest city in Europe then, they stopped. They didn't go any further. They made small raids, but they didn't do it like in full scale. So this is what we're doing now. We're stopping another troops of army of Mongolians in our land to prevent it to go to Europe. But Europe, okay. I would lead you to the other direction. Just read the books about the First and Second World War. Simple. The period between the First and Second World War. It was very brief, very short. But just before the Second World War started, many people in the world, many analysts, many intelligence told everyone that it's going to be a war. Hitler is going to hit. Hitler is going to start. But European people were pretty well off. They didn't want to fight. They were looking at the, being happy and, well off in general. And they say, okay, just you're exaggerating. It's not so bad. After Hitler occupied Austria and Czech Republic and Poland, still there are a lot of people say, oh, come on, these are the, Hitler was protecting German-speaking population of Austria because they didn't want to fight. But now Europe says what? Some people in Europe, I had someone talking this, that now we pay the price of sanctions, but we are ready to pay this price, this small price, to prevent us paying the big price tomorrow. Remember the Second World War. So the, shyness of NATO, shyness of some countries that don't want to fight for Ukraine, it's like shyness of some governments in the eve of the Second World War. And it is clear now. And the forecasts are, if this war goes any further for maybe a few weeks, the analysts say that some countries will definitely send troops to participate, because if Ukraine is defeated, which I don't believe, but if the next object will be any European country on the border, any, absolutely. And not only in Europe, in Asia also, in Caucasus also, like Georgia, like Azerbaijan, like Kazakhstan, like whatever else. So we should stop the monster to prevent the Third World War from happening.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Vasyl. I think there are no other questions, but in the end, I can ask a question, right?
Yes.
So maybe it's just a simple question. I've been following Ukraine since Volodymyr Zelensky became the president, because it's very interesting, People would say that how is a comedian became a president? Well, he was a KGB agent. It's nothing surprising,
Yeah.
if Putin became a president, but comedian. How Zelensky won in Ukraine? Maybe it's just simple like that. How and why?
Yeah, I will answer simply. Satri Opiningit. It's the nobody who became somebody. It's the he was really like nobody, right? And to be serious, I would answer like this. Ukrainian people, as I mentioned, were very democratic through centuries, and they are very sensitive towards the politicians. So through the age of our independence, nearly 28 years before the elections, people were really tired of the politicians who are liars, who are corrupt, who had a lot of scandals around them, everything, blah, blah, blah. So when Zelensky appeared, everybody thought, wow, this guy is clean. This guy has no so-called, we call it tails after him, like of corruption, of scandals, or anything. He's clean. I mean, like a tabula rasa, pure board, whiteboard, right? You can write anything on it. So I think my belief, that's why I voted for him, and I supported him since the first day he declared he would go for presidency. And especially after this movie, you can see it on somewhere, like the servant of the people. Yeah, I don't know how to translate it, but it's a film. It's a series. I think it's like 30 episodes. And he was in this film. He was the teacher of history, which somehow started to complain about what is going on. What's happening in this country? And someone was filming it, and then all the country, this TikTok video went to the whole country, and all the people started to say, "You go for presidency, we'll support you." So after this film, he really, in few months, he really went for presidency. I'm happy he is, because it doesn't matter who he was. It doesn't matter who he was, the comedian, the politician, anyone, but it's important who he became. And I'm proud of him. And someone told me that Vladimir Zelensky is a comedian who became the leader of a nation in the age where many leaders of the nations became clowns. And it's absolutely true. I think the last time such a leader appeared in the world, I mean, in times of war, was really like Second World War, because he's strong. He's adamant, I would say, that I'm happy we have him. And I think, well, some people say that people deserve the leader they've chosen, they've elected. I think we deserve him, and he deserves our people.
Thank you very much for your answer, Mr. Vasyl.
Thank you.
I think the time is going up, so I need to conclude the discussion for tonight. I cannot conclude it all because there are a lot of things. So this discussion was recorded, and you can see it on the YouTube channel of Madat Club or other PCPM Wiyung. So, jadi pada penghujung diskusi ini bisa kita ketahui apa yang terjadi di Ukraina sekarang adalah peperangan. Kemarin saya wawancara sama Pak Vasyl. Waktu wawancara Pak Vasyl bilang, ini bukan lagi konflik, ini sudah perang. Saat saya pikir-pikir, benar juga apa yang dikatakan Pak Vasyl. Bahkan saya sampai pada kesimpulan, ini bukan perang, tapi ini invasi. Itu Russian invaders. Selama beberapa bulan terakhir, saya tidak pernah komentar tentang Ukraina karena memfollow up terus seperti apa sebetulnya apa yang terjadi di Ukraina. Karena banyak berita yang bersimpang siur antara masalah NATO hingga sampai muncullah buzzer-buzzer yang mendukung Putin. Nah, yang menarik adalah khalayak Indonesia ini sebetulnya sangat mudah sekali disentil atau disentuh sentimen agamanya. Kenapa? Karena dukungan terhadap Rusia mulai muncul semenjak ada berita tentang Kadyrov. Siapa Kadyrov? Ya orang Ceknya yang mendukung Putin. Nah, di sini Pak Vasyl juga menyampaikan bahwa Perserikatan Bangsa-Bangsa atau PBB bukanlah organisasi yang bisa menyelesaikan masalah ini. Why? Kenapa? Karena ada anggota Dewan Keamanan PBB yang menyerang Ukraina. Siapa? Rusia. Menurut pandangan Pak Vasyl. Nah, demi menyelesaikan permasalahan ini, mungkin apa yang bisa dilakukan orang Indonesia? Seperti yang dikatakan Pak Vasyl tadi, mungkin bisa menghubungi kedutaan besar melalui email yang nanti bisa ditanyakan ke saya dan saya akan berikan, atau menyalurkan bantuannya kepada LSM atau NGO yang mengetahui caranya untuk menyalurkan bantuan. Mungkin kalau boleh saya bicara ya, atau ini tidak ngiklan ya, tapi salah satu yang pernah saya coba, dicek apakah di kita bisa untuk melakukan itu. Jadi bantuan-bantuan disalurkan lewat sana. Nah, mungkin itulah diskusi kita untuk malam ini. Terima kasih untuk Pak Vasyl yang mungkin lagi sibuk ini. Terima kasih untuk Bu Ela sudah menyempatkan waktunya. Dan terima kasih atas kawan-kawan yang sudah mau meramaikan diskusi ini dengan bertanya dan berdiskusi bersama Pak Vasyl dan Bu Ela. Saya Reza sebagai moderator undur diri. Mohon maaf jika ada salah kata. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.